Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode 7 of Ciao Padre. Well, here we are again. I hope you've been enjoying our cooking sessions. I know I have. Now, today we're going to do something that is really delicious. It's Mommy's pot roast. Now, most people make pot roast with a brown gravy. The gravy that I'm going to use is not brown and it's not red. It's somewhere in between. And the gravy has a nice buttery flavor to it. And I serve it with shell macaroni. Now, why the shell macaroni? Because when the shells boil, they open up, and then when you put them in the gravy of the meat, of the pot roast, all that gravy gets engorged right into that shell, and it's delicious. So the ingredients: I have a half a stick of butter. Now, I know some of you are worried about cholesterol and all those things, but a half a stick of butter, you could use margarine. But the secret is that we're going to use this wonderful Dr. Phelps here. I'm going to put a half a stick of butter in our power burner here. And the reason I put butter is because it caramelizes the meat. Now the meat you can use is a bottom round roast, or you can use chuck. A piece of chuck is good. You're not going to use your best cut of meat for this, because it's going to cook several hours. So there's no need to buy the best cut of meat or to buy Angus. So this is a bottom round, and it's perfect for a pot roast. So I'm going to put the butter in there and let it sizzle up, and then on a high flame, because when you sear meat, you want it on a very high flame, so that the meat browns nice on the outside, but it's not cooking much on the inside. But the idea is to sear it all around to keep the juices inside, so the meat isn't as dry as a bone. It stays succulent and moist and delicious. So as soon as this starts to sizzle up, I'll put the meat in there, remember, on a high flame. And I have my wonderful Le Creuset pot. And I'm going to sear the meat on each side, every side. And then I'm going to take it out. And while the meat is searing, I'm going to show you the vegetables that I'm going to put in here. The things I'm going to put in. So Dr. Phelps, let's go to this side over here. And for this recipe, we're using celery. Now, you don't want to use the outside parts of the celery. You want to dig in, pull the big stems off, and you want to get the delicious, succulent, thin, small pieces. And then what you do is you're going to cut them up. You're going to cut them up, and dice them up. You're going to dice, and you use even the leaves are fine. And you dice it up, you cut it up in pieces. And you don't have to make them real small, nor real big, about 1/4 of an inch. And you just keep cutting them. And you have these ready now. When we take the meat out, we're going to put that in. So let's check. Okay, now the butter is browning a little, but we're going to put this baby right in there. And on a high flame, and we're going to sear this meat real good. Can they see that, Dr. Phelps, in here? While that meat is searing, I'm going to, you have to go this way, Doctor, please. I'm going to cut up the other ingredients. So we have celery. Tender celery, not that hard stuff on the outside. We're going to use an onion. And we can cut the onion in half moons, it's fine, or you can chop it. Whichever way, maybe we'll chop it, a rough chop, however, and This is I'll tell you the truth, anytime I've made this, and I've made it for different functions, and I'll tell you, the people that eat it all go crazy for it. In fact, I made it one time for a staff party here for our workers, you know, like Jesse and Claudia and Ann, etc. And they loved it. And in fact, Jesse wanted the recipe, and he made it at home for his family. So much did he like it. So we're chopping up the onion now. And you know, you could use one of those choppers. I'm so used to using a knife that it doesn't, I don't even get ready to, I don't even bother with that other stuff. It's quicker for me to do it. Now I'm going to turn it this way and brown it on the side. Now what I'm going to have to do, you notice that when you sear something on a high flame, the butter gets dark. So what I do is, after I sear the meat, I'm going to take it out, rinse out the pan, and put more new butter in, because otherwise it has a funny taste. This is just to sear the meat, and because it's on a high flame, you notice, can they see the black in there? See the black? That's because it's on a high flame and the butter is cooking up too much. But for the sake of searing meat, it's perfect. Now I'm going to do the other side. And you should smell how good it is. Now another trick, you take your roast or your chuck, whatever you're going to use type of meat, and wipe it down and put it in the refrigerator a few hours before you're going to use it, so the meat dries up. You don't want to put a meat to sear that's all wet, because what happens is that wetness then steams up, and instead of having a seared meat, it's like a boiled meat. So wipe it down well, put it in the fridge for 3 or 4 hours, so when it comes out, it's ready to sear and brown beautifully. That's a secret you can do for any kind of meat, especially if you're going to cook a roast beef or a prime rib. Leave it in the fridge a few hours so it dries out. Now let's come and look at this, doctor. Come over here. Let's see what it looks like. It's searing beautifully. One more side to sear. And then I'm going to take it out and put it in this plate. And I'm going to put in my chopped onions. And I'm going to put in the celery chopped. And I'm going to put some carrots. You don't have to put carrots. I don't put too many carrots, but you want to cut them small pieces because carrots are very hard and they take longer to cook. But we're going to be cooking this meat for about 2 hours, so, you know, they certainly will cook. And they just give a nice little sweetness to this dish. I'm going to recap for you later all the ingredients. So I put like 3 or 4 of these baby carrots, 1 onion, and about 4 pieces of the inside part of the celery with the leaves as well. The leaves give it a good flavor. That is the leaves that are inside, not those leaves on the big branches, but the leaves on the smaller stems are very good. I'm going to put a few more of these in there. You can cut these because, like I said, they're going to cook. You're going to cook this for like 2 hours, maybe more, depending on how tender you want the meat. So we're ready now. I'm going to take this now and put it in here. Now you can see, Doctor, you want to show them the succulence of that braised, that seared meat, I should say. Now I'm going to take this, this pot, and I'm just going to, and this is the great thing about the Le Creuset pots. I'm going to put the garbage disposal on. And the beauty of this pot is that it's very easy to clean. You just want to get off the black marks, and that's fine. Now, make sure that you wipe the inside of the pan, because when you put your butter or oil, whatever you're going to put, it will sizzle up and burn, jump right into your face. Those little bubbles, it's very dangerous. So now I'm going to put the other half a stick of butter in, or margarine, or you could eat, if you don't like those two ingredients, you could always use a little olive oil. So what am I going to put in now? Now I'm going to put in the carrots, celery, all chopped up, and the onion. And this is the essence of this wonderful pot roast. So we're going to, so 1 onion chopped, 3 or 4 stalks of inside celery, leaves included, and about 3 or 4 baby carrots. And as far as the meat, like I said, you could use a chuck, it's very good. Of course, you know, chuck is more fatty and it's tender, but that's all right because you can skim the fat off at the end of the cooking. Here's my trusty wooden spoon, and I will watch this. We want to make sure these vegetables sweat, that they get soft, you know, because this is the essence of the pot roast. This is what's going to make the flavor. All these delicious, and notice I haven't put any garlic. Like I said last time, people think that Italians use garlic for everything. We use it where it goes, where it's necessary, where it adds something. But you don't need it for this dish. This dish is a more refined form of pot roast. It's the Cadillac of pot roast, so to speak. And I'm gonna let this sweat, and I'm also now going to put some salt and pepper. Now I have my sea salt that I crushed up from Sicily. I'm going to put a little of this. This helps the vegetables in here to get softer, and then a little pepper. So the salt helps the celery and the carrots and onion to get soft quicker. And if you smell this, how delicious it smells in that lovely butter. And I use unsweetened, unsalted butter. I use the sweet butter. But you could use the salted butter too. Now it's so funny, when my mother made this pot roast, go to the restaurant, she'd put her order in, no butter, no butter, make it with oil. I said, Mommy, when you make pot roast, you use butter. Oh, it's different. And that's how she dismissed it. It's different in the pot roast. So she always used butter when she made the pot roast. And let me tell you, it makes such a difference, too. Now, what we'll eventually do is after the vegetables get nice and soft, then I will put the meat back in. And then I will put into this a small can, just let me get it, a small can of tomato sauce. You could use Hunt's, you could use, but don't get the one that has oregano, and just get the plain tomato sauce. This happens to be Tutto Rosso, but Hunt's is very good as well. I always look for what's cheaper, because both of them are good, the Tutto Rosso. And what we're going to do is, after I put the meat in here, I'll put the can of tomato sauce, and then I will cover the meat with the beef flavored stock. This happens to be Rachel Ray's beef stock, to cover the top of the meat. And then you cover it halfway and you let it cook, simmer, for approximately 1 to 2 hours, about 2 hours I would say. At the end, excuse me, the liquid should be going down. So don't keep the cover on the whole time, maybe like a half an hour, then take it off, because you eventually want the liquid to come to evaporate, so it's more of a rich gravy for when you put your shell macaroni with this. And at the end also, if you find that the gravy is a little bit too thin, and you want a thicker gravy, I always put a little cornstarch, or you can put a little flour, the way you like it, how you want to serve it with your pasta. Because what happens is between the beef bouillon and the tomato sauce, you get a beautiful, nice color. And as it goes down, evaporates, you get a rich, delicious gravy to have your shell. And what's great about this, it's a full meal. You have your meat and you have your pasta. All you need to serve with it is a salad. Imagine how easy that is. You get your meat on sale, a piece of chuck, a bottom round roast when they're on sale. And you have a meal for 5, 6 people, because you know, when you have pasta with something, you don't need as much meat, right? And if you're just 2 people, you cut the meat in half and you freeze half and you make, you know, just the piece that you want. And that's the great thing about this. You actually could even make this with stew meat if you wanted. But instead of cooking it as long as 2 hours, you cook it less, because obviously those little stew pieces will cook quicker. But if it's a large piece of meat, you want to cook it at least 2 hours so it gets nice and tender. And then when you serve the pasta with the sauce on top, and then you slice the meat, you can put some of the gravy from this on top of the meat. And it's just absolutely wonderful. It just has a very unique flavor. I don't know what kind of pot roast some of you make, but I've seen most of the time the pot roast is in a brown gravy. And it's not like this. This is really something special. Now, I'm now going to take the meat, and I'm going to put the meat back in. I'm going to make a space here, put the meat back in. And then I'm going to take my Rachael Ray bouillon, beef broth. I have it on a high flame now. And I'm going to put in the beef broth. What does that do? Any bits of pieces of meat or of vegetables that are on the bottom of the pan, of the pot, will be scraped up, and that's a lot of flavor there. And I'm going to put a little more. I like to cover it because I like to have a lot of gravy. Now, if it's just 1 or 2 people, one of these is enough for you, but I like to have a lot of gravy, and so I'm going to put a little bit more. I had this left over in the refrigerator, so it's not going to quite cover the meat, but it's sufficient. Show them, Dr. Phelps, how high it is. And you bring this to a boil, and then you simmer it, and I would put the cover like this, see? In fact, cover it. No, I forgot one thing. I didn't put my tomato sauce. My tomato sauce goes in there with the bouillon. And then, of course, we're going to mix it, stir it, you know. And you're going to get such a rich flavor. Remember what I said. If at the end that you feel the meat is cooked, you put a fork in it. When it goes in nice and smoothly and softly, you know it's done. Because in this case, you're not looking for medium rare. You're looking for cooked so that the meat starts to break apart and you have a nice tender meat. And so you just let it simmer, and I would say I'm going to put it on for 2 hours, my timer, and start it. And I'm going to cover it now so I can bring it to a boil. Once I bring it to a boil, I'm going to lower it and let it simmer a little bit covered, and then I take the cover off. Because if you keep the cover on, the broth will not get rich. It won't evaporate. It won't condense, let's say. And so you won't have a very rich gravy. You'll have soup. We're not making soup here. We're making a gravy, a pot roast gravy. So we let it come to a boil. Then I'll take the cover off and let it cook for about 2 hours. And I wouldn't cover it, but on a low flame. And every so often go over and give it a turn. Every half hour or so, give it a turn. Then you make your shell macaroni. Remember I said, and you have to use shell. Now you say, why shells? Because this is the tradition. And it's been done hundreds of years, so we can't improve on that. That's what tradition is about. It's been tried and tested hundreds of years, and you can see the shell macaroni. I actually like the larger shells, but this is all I could find. But these grow also, you see them? And that gravy fills into the shell. And then you serve it with Parmesan cheese on top. Or if you like Locatella Romano, Pecorino, you could use that. But Parmesan goes very well with this, because don't forget, this is butter we're using to saute the meat. And Parmesan is more of a mild cheese. It's made from cow milk, not sheep milk. Now, I have another, so we're going to cook this for 2 hours. Once again, the ingredients: 1 onion chopped, 4 pieces of celery chopped, 5 carrots chopped, butter, half a stick of butter to sear the meat, empty it out, clean it out, another half a stick of butter, put the vegetables in, let them get nice, sweat nice and soft, then you put your meat back in, and then you add your broth and your can of tomato sauce, and you let it cook. Of course, salt and pepper. And you can adjust the salt and pepper later on. And remember, at the end, if you think it looks too soupy to have with pasta, that's no problem. Get a little cornstarch, a tablespoon. You start with the tablespoon. Take a little of the juice, put it in a small cup, add the cornstarch, stir it up till it becomes liquid, then pour it in. Check it out, stir it for a while, see if it's thickening. If you want it thicker, you do another tablespoon again. And then you have a nice thick gravy with your macaroni, with your shells. Okay, it's boiling now. So now I'm going to lower the flame. And this is the secret of any kind of pot roast, so that the meat and the broth and the veggies fuse together and make a fabulous, delicious sauce, gravy for your pasta. Now you could have noodles with this if you like, but I find the shell macaroni is the best. It really is. So take a chance on the shell macaroni and you'll be surprised. Now the next dish I want to make is a vegetable dish. Come over here, doctor. What is that noise? Oh, it's this. Oh. That was the garbage disposal. Now the next dish is, you know, summer is coming and a lot of us plant zucchini, right? And sometimes you think, what am I going to do with all these zucchini? Or people give them to you, you know? What am I going to... So people make zucchini bread and all. But zucchini is delicious and it's so good for you. There's so many vitamins in it. It's basically squash. In Sicily we call it cucuzzedda because it's a small. Cucuzza is the big, cucuzzedda is a small one. So these are small. Cucuzzedda, cucuzza is the big one. So I've already cut these up into, I'll show you how I do it. Doctor, can you put the camera here? You take off this top stem. You cut the bottom piece off as well. We call it il vinigodro in Sicilian. And then you're going to slice this lengthwise down the middle. Then you put it like this. You cut it again down the center. See? Down the center, and then look how easy. So you have like 1/2 inch cubes, let's say, slices. Very easy. You see them? How beautiful they are? Now this looks like an awful lot. This is, I put 3 in here already, and this is a 4th one. So I'm going to do the same thing. Cut it down the center lengthwise, and then you cut. Now, if the guguzedre, if the zucchini is older, it has a lot of seeds. Don't ever get those big ones. They're full of seeds. But if you should have them, the skin on them is much tougher, so you have to take the skin off. These are very tender. I asked Sister to buy small ones because they're more tender. Now see how much that looks like? By the time you cook this, it'll be down halfway. Now to the zucchini, I'm going to add 1 onion. I use a Vidalia. By the way, they're on sale now in the ShopRite. Aren't they, Sister, the Vidalia?
Yes. Yeah.
They're on sale on the ShopRite. See how I know about all of you who go shopping? I don't stay in an ivory tower over here. I'm right there with you people. And so I'm going to, and a half moon, pardon that I'm doing this all now, but I want to just show you how to cut these as well. There's many ways you can cut them, but I like them in half moons because I find that when you cook stews and things, the onions kind of almost evaporate. You know, they get very... Now, the other thing I put in this are a few potatoes, 1 or 2 potatoes, which I slice the skin off. Now, on these kind of white potatoes, you probably don't have to, but I don't like those skins that come off then and hang around in the pot. So I peel mine. And what does this do? This helps to thicken your zucchini stew. Obviously, you know that potatoes have starch, and so that starch exudes into the stew, into the zucchini minestra. And I'm going to put another one. You can put 1, 2, 3, but it helps to thicken the stew of the zucchini, the onion, and I'm going to do this, and you'll see how easy this is. It's such an easy, and you can have this as a side dish, or you can have it as a main dish if you want to put some pasta with this. You could make some orzo or some small kind of pasta, even like elbows, for example, and you can have it with pasta, and that could be your main meal. And you got all your delicious ingredients, and I'm going to put 1 more to make it a 3rd because Sister Dolores likes potatoes. So I'm going to put an extra potato for her. Oh, she's making a cameo appearance, everybody. Look at this.
Put more.
All right. Sister's making a cameo appearance, Dr. Phelps. Do we have to give her credits? Where's Razzie? She didn't make a cameo appearance. Get over here, little girl. Come here. All right, so we got everything now. We have our pot. Now, this is Mommy's pot. And I took it when she died. Nobody wanted it, so I took it. I love this pot. And we're going to put, as most Italians cook with, we cook with olive oil, extra virgin olive oil. And Southern Italians especially. Now, Northern Italians, so you may want to put 1/4 cup of olive oil, depending how much you like. You can put as much as 1/2 cup even. But Northern Italians tend to cook more with butter and lard, actually. At least they used to. I don't know if they're still using lard. But Southern Italians, let's say from Naples down, always use olive oil simply because they have so much of it. When you're in Sicily, every place you go is olive trees, olive groves, all over. Some of them are 600-700 years old. They're huge. So we're going to put the olive oil in and put the heat on here. And then what I'm going to do is, without browning anything, I put it all in, the whole thing. Because we're basically going to kind of steam all this. And with that, I'm going to put another can of tomato sauce. You'd be surprised. These little cans of tomato sauce, they're great. So it gives it a little color, a little flavor, but it's not a whole can of tomatoes that is going to overpower it. I'll put a little water in this can. But you're going to notice you don't need to put more than a little bit. Maybe a quarter of a cup at the most. Because what happens is, when you cover this, which you're going to cover this and lower the flame, what happens is zucchini is filled with water. All of that comes out. And so you have a nice sauce. Now the other important ingredient, a must. We just planted our basilico about a week ago. And this gives it the great flavor. You put in your basilico. We like a lot, so I put a lot. So if you grow it, go in the yard and pick it and pull it apart and put it in your zucchini stew, let's say. And I have several different kind of qualities. One of my dear priest friends, Father Hartman's sister and him, came to see the parish last week, and they brought me a beautiful plant of basilico. Can you tell how my friends know what I like? So Barbara bought this for me, and I love it. It's Barbara, by the way, if you're listening, it's growing beautifully. It's growing better than all the other ones that I had. And now I'm going to... Thank you, Doctor. I'm going to stir this, mix it up. And there's one, now we're going to put our salt and pepper in here, which is very important. You know, food without salt is so bland and bleak. I know some people can't eat it, but that's why Italian food is seasoned. So if you don't have the salt, at least you have other seasonings. So you may want to put a teaspoon of salt, depend how you like it. Some people love a lot of salt. And here I like the cracked pepper that I cracked myself with a hammer. And I mustn't forget my Sicilian oregano in this. I got this in Sicily. And I was so proud of myself. I stuck it in the suitcase between my underwear and socks. And nobody dared look for it. So, you know me. So now I'm going to put some of this here, see? A little oregano, not too much, but it does add a nice zip to it. I don't buy the oregano in the bottle. It's been in there for years, months. This is fresh. And if I can't go to Sicily to buy it, I find an Italian store where they sell it from Sicily. And I put that. Now, we're going to cover this. I'm going to put it on a low flame now, very low, and cook this about an hour or so. Now, Doctor, this way, the last half hour, see, this shows you how we don't throw anything away. What I saved was, a few weeks ago we made fettuccine alfredo and I needed Parmesan cheese, so I bought a piece. And this is the rind, the end of the Parmesan cheese. No, we don't throw it away. Not when Parmesan cheese is $10 a pound. We save everything. So this rind, what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut it in cubes and pieces, because there's a lot of cheese on this. Slice it in pieces. And the last half hour or so, last 15 minutes even, I throw this in the zucchini stew. And it's so delicious because what happens is the Parmesan cheese gets soft and you bite into the zucchini and with it is a nice piece of this cheese. Oh, it's to die for. See, Grandma didn't throw anything away. You know, don't forget, they came from poverty, from Sicily. They came, you know, there was a depression, you know, they suffered through all of that. And remember, when you live in the city, it's not like you live in the farm like Dr. Phelps' family lived in Illinois. They farmed everything. They had plenty to eat. But the city people, it was difficult for them. So nothing was spared. In fact, I'm going to tell you a story. Grandma had about 30 people coming because they had a little house, a little bungalow on Long Island. This is when Long Island was really the wilderness. We're talking in the 20s, 30s. And she had a lot of company. They just would come to Grandma's house because they knew she always had food. We say in Italian, they come panza presenza. In other words, they would come with their stomach and their presence. And Grandma was there and had to feed them. Grandma was very hospitable. And so Grandma didn't know what to do. What am I going to give all these people? I mean, she had some pasta which she made in cauldrons. Could you imagine? Outside cauldrons with the fire. And she decided she would send the kids to go pick cardoons. You probably don't know what a cardoon is. A cardoon looks like a gigantic celery, about this high. It's in the artichoke family. And it kind of grew wild in certain places, and we kids knew where to go. And it looked like a celery plant with all these big, about this high, wide branches, stems, what would you call them? And we'd bring them home, and my poor grandmother, you had to put gloves on because they had like the artichokes, at the end of the artichokes, there's a little thorn. So Grandma had to pull all these pieces off, the ribs, let's say, like you pulled the rib of celery. And when you did it, of course, your hands got to be a mess, so you had to wear gloves. And it was not an easy thing to do because those splinters or whatever would cut you. Then she would take them and she would parboil them, cut them and parboil them. And then she would slice them in a piece the size of a veal cutlet. And then she would make them like she made veal cutlets. She would dip them in flour, then in the egg and milk and cheese mixture, and then in the breadcrumbs and fry them. When she put them on the table, oh, these veal cutlets are delicious. Where did you get them? What butcher did you go? Of course, they weren't veal cutlets at all. But Grandma knew how to be creative. And they actually were very tasty. They sell them in Mazio, believe it or not. I was a little shocked to see them there. I'm going to make them sometime here, see if anybody likes them. But they were very good, but that's what they did. They had to improvise when they had company. It wasn't in Grandma's book to say, oh, I'm sorry, we have no more food, you have to go. Absolutely not. She made do, and she made them all happy and full. How about that? That's the wisdom of the old timers. That's the wisdom of our grandparents and great-grandparents. They teach us and taught us so very much. So, the zucchini stew, we're going to say like an hour, and you check it. If you think that the zucchini is still hard, with the potatoes are hard, you cook it a little longer. But whenever you cook, you can't leave something and say, I'm going to go upstairs and take an hour nap. No, when you cook, you must be attentive. This is your artwork. You're going to be here still with the brush, painting your artwork, your food. So you have to check. Yes, it's a pain in the neck, but the result is, you die for it, and you make all the people that come over enjoy it as well. So I wish you God's blessings. And any of you that want to donate to the PayPal, you can. to help our parish of St. Gianna, because it's a struggle, because even Sunday we didn't get the crowds we would normally get, like none of the parishes really did. Some people are still afraid. I also remind those of you that are listening that the church will be open tomorrow. It's the Feast of the Most Sacred Heart, and the Blessed Sacrament will be exposed the whole day in church after the 8:30 Mass until 7 p.m. So please come and spend time with our Eucharistic Lord. May God bless you and Our Lady keep you. Thank you so much.